My motivation is very, very simple. I've been swimming for over 30 years. I've seen the oceans change, and I'm passionate about trying to protect these last wilderness areas on this earth. Some of these images are so stark. One person diving in, making a statement about how this place is changing and about how important this place is. I can assure you about one thing, and that is that my determination to protect this part of the world is far stronger than the indifference of any political leaders. I will stand and I will fight for this place, whatever the cost. Whatever the cost.
Hello. I think we're on now. Thank you. Such a pleasure, Lewis, to be with you on the panel and to have a conversation about the amazing achievements and your advocacy. And I think we've just been having a conversation in the back as well. And what struck me is the passion and the drive with which you do what you do. But I'm interested. Why do you do the crazy things you do?
It all stems from one thing, and that is justice. So I started life out as a maritime lawyer, but I was also a swimmer. And I started seeing the oceans change and change really, really quickly. And so for me, it's about justice between ourselves and future generations, and also between ourselves and the animal kingdoms. And so what I try to do is I try to do swims in some of the most endangered parts of the world to share a message about what's happening there and why it matters to all of us. So for example, in 2007, I went to the North Pole and I did a swim across an open patch of sea at the North Pole. You know, a very, very simple message. And I remember arriving at the North Pole, and this was the first time in human history that the North Pole had unfrozen. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to swim a kilometer. It's going to take me nearly 20 minutes, and I'm just in my Speedo. But I'm absolutely determined to do it because what I was seeing happening up there will impact all of us around the world and every single future generation in the whole of the animal kingdom.
So it strikes me that to be able to do that, you have to dig deep. You need to imagine winning,
Yes.
which is actually, I think, one of the hashtags were. So what is it that motivates you and drives you at that point in time when you're facing adversity, treacherous conditions, needing to push forward and still imagine and ultimately win?
So it's interesting, as a sports person, let me give you an example of the North Pole. I mean, I've just done a swim down the Hudson River as well. But the North Pole, it's a pretty terrifying place to go and attempt to swim. And when you start thinking about all the things which could possibly go wrong, well, then there's a long list. And very, very quickly, you can talk yourself out of doing a swim. What I try to do is not think about all the things which could possibly go wrong. I try and flip the script and say to myself, what would things look like if absolutely everything went right? And then I try and put all those things together. And it's only then at that stage then that I try and mitigate against a risk. I then dive in and commit to 100% and I go for it. And what I've learned in 36 years of swimming is that actually very, very few things are impossible to achieve if you flip the script. And so when it comes to these goals and when it comes to winning, we have to flip the script and we have to really visualize and imagine what things would look like if all the sustainable development goals are achieved. And it would be an amazing world for all of us.
No, I mean, what you just mentioned there, I've always thought we have to be intentional about the goals. We have to really draw lessons from experiences like yours And you already started alluding to that, right? The focus about imagining how to win. What more other lessons, including from your recent endeavor around New York and leading up to UNGA, can we draw from and can apply that can really make a difference? And I know you mentioned earlier about maybe is it applicable lessons from the sports world and into the work we're trying to do, advocacy for change. But I know the tremendous experiences you can share, and it will be interesting to hear some of those.
Well, the Hudson's an amazing river, and I think we can all learn an awful lot from the Hudson, because 50 years ago, the Hudson was one of the dirtiest rivers in America, if not the world. I met a gentleman recently who lived close to the Hudson River, and he said to me that he'd wake up one morning and the river would be white. And then the next morning he'd wake up and it'd be red. And then the following day it would be blue. And the reason for that was because he lived next to a car factory, and it depended upon the color of the car they were manufacturing that day. And 50 years ago, New Yorkers came together and they said enough is enough, and they started cleaning up the river, literally mile by mile, town after town, factory after factory, and they turned the fate of this river around. I think we can all learn an awful lot. Yes, we still need to be vigilant, but I hope that the Hudson River and what's been achieved in the Hudson River, because a swim down the Hudson River would have been absolutely impossible 50 years ago. I hope that it's a blueprint for people all over the world that your rivers can also be saved.
And it takes collective action, I think. And it will be, today, the Secretary General in his Climate Ambition Summit said, world leaders really need to unite and come together for solutions for people and planet. And I know you're driven by the desire to always have the best team working with you with the right mindset as well. So how can we draw from that as well and apply it to the SDGs, this collaboration and putting our best foot forward all the time and winning?
I mean, teamwork is absolutely essential. I'm swimming down the Hudson River, and out of the forest comes an enormous bald eagle and an osprey. And these animals then start following you down the river. And you imagine one of these huge, great animals following you down the river, just above you, just gliding down the river. And to think that 50 years ago, these animals were virtually extinct in the Hudson Valley. Here's the rub. In order to protect them, they went and got eggs from Canada. They brought them across the border, they put them in the trees, and then they did everything they could to stop the hunting, stop the DDT, stop the pollution, and their numbers have rebounded. But it involved people working across borders. Right? We cannot protect the planet unless we start working together, because the problems are so immense.
The problems are immense, but the solutions are within reach, I think, right? You mentioned in our previous conversation the importance of imagining victory and winning.
Yes.
And whether with regards to goals for people on the planet, that has happened before, and how we can do that better and intentionally. And I think you also mentioned the importance of being valued, driven by our values, right? And swimming down the Hudson, you saw the Statue of Liberty you mentioned. It inspired and evoked certain sentiments. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
The Statue of Liberty is an amazing symbol, because I've swum 310 miles. I come underneath the George Washington Bridge. As I breathe to my left, I see Manhattan. On my right, I see New Jersey, and in the distance, I see the Statue of Liberty. And all I could think is that every single thing which we hold dear to ourselves relies on us being able to drink clean water and breathe fresh air and live in a habitable planet. And we have to, all over the world, strive for those very, very basic things. And as you say, the solutions are achievable.
And we don't have, I think, any other choice but to imagine winning and work at it, right? Because it's about well-being of people and the health of the planet. And I mean, you're passionate about water, waterways, oceans. That's like the lifeblood of humanity and the planet. And what is it, the tangible things that we can I mean, coming towards the end of this, we can leave people with to think about the solutions, the actions, the steps that they need to be taking, and hearing from you this passionate call to action.
The United Nations doesn't clean up rivers, okay? It takes local communities to clean up rivers and clean up beaches and clean up the oceans. A few years ago, I went to Mumbai. There was a young Indian lawyer. His name was Afroz Shah. He had a flat that overlooked a beach. The plastic pollution was literally up to his shoulders. He decided to go down to the beach and start cleaning it up. He didn't wait for permission to help change his environment. And together with a friend, he did it. And then the next weekend, it was 4 people, and then 8, and then 16. It's been the biggest beach cleanup in history. It's been going for 6 years. It's astonishing to see what has happened there. One person, together with a community, working together and imagining a clean and healthy beach.
Thank you so much. And it just reminds me of, I think, an icon from a place we both come from, South Africa. I'm based there, you're from South Africa, but Madiba, you quoted him earlier actually, also said, apart from saying it always seems impossible until it's done, he also said, it is in our hands to create a better world for all. And I think that's something that you also just echoed, right? I mean, what's your reflection on that?
Every generation has an opportunity to change the world, to make it safer, to make it more just, and to make it sustainable. And we have got to now be that generation.
No, thank you so much. And I have a present for you. I didn't tell you I was going to give you this. It's the Nelson Mandela quotes book that links the SDGs to his quotes and individual actions that we can all take to create a better world for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.